Senator Kamala Harris, welcome to The Issue Is.
Good to be with you, Alex. Thank you.
All right. And because you are in the Senate right now, we are not allowed to talk about your book, The Truths We Told, congratulations, or the potential presidential run. But
and let's also not talk about the children's book, Superheroes Are Everywhere.
Okay. We didn't talk about it. But we can talk about the Senate business, and there is a lot of Senate business to get to. First and foremost, the government remains shut down.
Yeah.
What, if anything, are you and Senate Democrats willing to compromise on to get the government back open?
Well, Alex, first of all, let's just talk about the harm that is occurring each day that the government is shut down. And it is a harm to the American people in terms of the services they're not receiving. We have over 40,000 Californians who are affected by this shutdown, who are not able to work or are going to work every day and not getting paid. And this is now the longest shutdown, government shutdown in American history. And we're talking about people who have taken an oath to serve the public, who are now standing in lines for food banks because they're having a difficult time making ends meet. It's just wrong across the board. And to put a fine point on it, the president cannot hold the American people hostage over his vanity project, which is what that wall is.
But Republicans point out that in the past, some Democrats have voted for some version of wall funding. They've certainly supported border security. Is there any amount of wall funding that you would be willing to support if it meant getting the government back open?
Listen, we all want border security and have been proponents and advocates and fighters for border security. We all want our border to be secure. But the point is, don't hold the American people hostage over this wall. We can have that conversation, but get the government back up and running.
So you might be willing to support it if the government was back open?
We have got to get the government back up and running. And Alex, remember, before Christmas, before the holiday started, the Senate, in a bipartisan, unanimous vote, passed a funding bill. And the House of Representatives, we have several bills that they brought over that we need to bring to the floor of the Senate for a vote. Let's get the government back up and running. And we cannot hold the American people hostage. And it's irresponsible of this administration to do that.
Let's talk about another topic in the news this week, which is the nomination fight over Attorney General William Barr, who could potentially become Attorney General again. You had very aggressive questioning of him this week.
What do you imagine the facts would be that are relevant to the recusal?
They could be innumerable.
You've said that you're not going to support him. Do you feel more or less confident about the integrity or potential independence of the Russia investigation after hearing him say that he's friends with Robert Mueller, that he doesn't believe it's a witch hunt? How do you feel about the Russia investigation going forward if he becomes Attorney General?
Well, to your point, Alex, I was heartened to hear him say that it's not a witch hunt, because of course it is not. One of the first priorities that I have as a member of the Senate Committee on Homeland Security and as a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee is that we do everything in our power to allow Bob Mueller to complete his investigation and take his investigation where the truths and the facts lead him. So that was heartening. But the concern I have, the real concern I have, is that this nominee refused to say that if the career people in the Department of Justice, who are the ethics people, advised him to recuse himself from the Mueller investigation, he refused to say that he would actually comply with that recommendation. Even Jeff Sessions, the outgoing and the last Attorney General, complied with that recommendation. So it leaves me to wonder why he would not agree that if the career professional people who are concerned with ethics say, hey, guy, you really shouldn't be a part of this, why he wouldn't listen to that. And that's one issue. The other issue I have, and as a former Attorney General of California, the Attorney General of the United States has a large amount of responsibility and power to make decisions about what we do with criminal justice policy in this country. And my concern is that this nominee, Barr, served 30 years ago which was a very different time in terms of criminal justice policy. In the decades since, we have proven the war on drugs was an abject failure. We have proven that when it comes to addiction and drug crime, we really ought to recognize it for being the public health issue that it is, instead of incarcerating addiction and incarcerating public health. And he doesn't seem to have really caught on to how we have evolved in the last couple of decades. I'm also concerned about his perspective on what needs to happen at the border in terms of the trafficking of guns and drugs and human beings. He seems to think that drugs are coming across the border from every place. And I had to point out to him during the hearing that it's pretty well established that our most vulnerable points are the points of entry, the ports of entry, and that's where we should have the focus in terms of what we need to do to combat transnational criminal organizations, which is what we did when I was in the AG's office.
And then you got him to point out that he had not visited a point of entry in the last 30 years.
That's correct.
Another big issue that you've been fighting on is that of election integrity. You've sponsored some legislation with a Republican senator from Oklahoma on this issue.
Right.
Are you concerned about the integrity of this next election? Are you confident in the process for 2020?
So I'm very excited and proud that on many issues that I think are some of the most intractable in our country, that there is and can be bipartisan work. And so I'm proud of the work that we've done across the aisle with my Republican colleagues around a bill that I'm sponsoring that is basically intended to upgrade the elections infrastructure of the various states of our country. Because in so many states, the election system is really outdated. We are now pretty clear that we need to have paper ballots. People say, why do you need paper ballots, Kamala? And I say, well, it's pretty simple. Russia can't hack a piece of paper. But we need to give the states the support and the incentives to actually upgrade their systems. That's what my bill aims to do. It's unfortunate, however, that the leader of the Senate has not put the bill on the floor for a vote. And so that gives me concern because, to your point, Russia, it is without any question, our unanimous intelligence community has said it, Russia interfered with the election of the President of the United States. And we should assume that they will do it again if we are not stronger and smarter in the way we defend ourselves and our democracy. Because part of the strength of our democracy as a country has always been that we have free and open elections. And it is well established that part of Russia's intention is to compromise the American public's confidence in their democracy, including their election system.
This week, we had this report from the New York Times suggesting that the FBI was concerned that President Trump may be a puppet of Russia. Do you share that concern? Are you concerned that President Trump is a puppet of Russia?
I am concerned about all that required a special counsel to engage in an extensive investigation into what exactly happened around the election in 2016 and who was involved and what was their motivation. And I'm eagerly waiting for and anticipating the outcome of that investigation, which will obviously allow us to draw conclusions based on facts and evidence.
Last question. This is MLK weekend, and also on this show we have your colleague, Congresswoman Karen Bass, who's now the chairwoman of the Congressional Black Caucus, coming on to talk about Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy. What do you see as Dr. King's legacy, and how has his life helped change your life?
Dr. King was someone who understood the best of who we can be, and he fought to that end. And he aspired, as we all do, to create a better nation. And he represents, for me, someone who understood the commonality among people. We are a diverse country. It doesn't mean that we don't have anything in common. And at this moment in time, when there are so many powerful voices that are trying to sow hate and division among us, honoring and remembering Dr. King's legacy and his work and his words is critically important. The vast majority of us as Americans have so much more in common than what separates us. And we have to hold on to that and reject those people who would suggest it's us versus them. That's not who we are as a country. But we're going to have to fight to remind people of that.
Well, Senator Kamala Harris, thank you. There are rumors, of course, is that you're going to announce your presidential run on MLK Day, and I know we've said that you cannot say anything about it in the Senate, but they didn't say anything about body language, so blink if you're running for president. I think I saw blink.
Alex,
That's
you're
an
really
exclusive.
good. You're really good. I'm going to now just keep my eyes open and not even blink.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate the time. Again, congratulations on the new book. We hope you'll come join us here in studio. And when you do, we like to play music in our studio. So in your honor, you can't hear it right now, but we are playing a little Tribe Called Quest in your honor. Check the Rhyme,
great.
which I know you love to dance to. Senator Kamala Harris, thank you so much.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you.